All right. Well, good afternoon. Thank you for coming, and thank you to the summit organizers for the opportunity to talk to you today. My name is Stephanie Levy, and I am a social and behavior change advisor at USAID headquarters in Washington, D.C. And today, I'm going to be talking to you about the importance of measurement, especially monitoring, for improved SBC programming. So, in the tradition of many TED-style talks, I am going to start with something that seems totally unrelated to the topic at hand. I don't expect that most people here will recognize this man from his photograph. I know I would not have. But his name was Robert McNamara, and he was an American with a really impressive career. He was a Harvard Business School graduate. He was president of Ford Motors. He was the US Secretary of Defense in the 1960s, and later he was president of the World Bank. As Secretary of Defense during the Vietnam War, McNamara was very focused on quantifying every possible metric of the war in order to determine success. This was something he had done successfully at Ford while he was working to improve productivity and efficiency, but it didn't work as well with his infinitely more complex situation. So the United States may have looked like it was winning the war on paper, according to McNamara's measurements, but obviously that wasn't reflecting the reality on the ground. So his measurements were misleading. They didn't take into account the national outcry against the war, or the difficulties that the military was having with the conflict itself. So, in short, the data did not reflect the reality of the situation. In 1972, a sociologist named Daniel Yankelevich coined the term McNamara fallacy, which refers to making a decision solely focusing on quantitative observations and ignoring everything else. Also called quantitative fallacy, McNamara himself said that he believed that this contributed to the United States' defeat in the Vietnam War. There are 4 steps in the McNamara fallacy. Step 1, measure whatever can be easily measured. Yankelevich said, this is okay as far as it goes. There's nothing inherently problematic. Yankelevich said, this is blindness. And the 4th step, the 4th part of this progression in the McNamara fallacy, is to presume that which cannot be measured easily does not exist. Yankelevich said, this is suicide. So, to recap the 4 steps very quickly, measure whatever can be easily measured. Disregard that which cannot be measured easily. Presume that which cannot be measured easily is not important, and presume that which cannot be measured easily does not exist. Now, we in SBC are not victims of the McNamara fallacy. We do not subscribe to the strict quantification of the easily measurable. We don't just choose to measure what we can easily and leave everything else alone. Of course, certain things that cannot be measured easily are often the most crucial components for successful and sustainable SBC. That being said, we definitely sometimes still see steps 1 and 2 in our work, and that's due to a variety of factors. It could be donor requirements, reporting requirements, constraints in the environment or availability of data sources, or the difficulty of measuring some key SBC components such as empowerment, social norms, etc. And I would also argue that we actually see all 4 of these steps in development work. That there are widespread assumptions, particularly outside of the SBC field, that what we are trying to achieve and what we focus on is not important or does not exist. That it is secondary at best, or inconsequential, or non-existent at worst. So we have these issues, and we hear these arguments and this skepticism again and again. So what can we do? If we look at step 2, disregard that which cannot be measured easily, well, we have some issues with that. In our work, we have some behaviors, some social norms, and some indicators that cannot be measured easily, and that's the reality. I don't have an easy solution for this part. I don't have any surefire ways to measure or silver bullets, but regardless, I would still urge us to do more in our measurement than is typical for current programming. Programming. I would push all of us on all sides of this work to actually think creatively, to look to other data sources and to other disciplines that may actually measure these hard-to-measure components better than we currently do. I'm so sorry. Oh, sorry. Thank you. So we can't force everything that we care about to be easily measurable, so we have to make sure that we are able to do this differently and do it better. And doing this differently and doing this better actually could help us deal with issues around step number 3. Presume that which cannot be measured easily is not important. I'm sorry, could I have my script? Yeah. Sorry. This obviously has implications for SBC programming, including general design and budget allocation, but it also has impacts for SBC more broadly within global health and within development. I'm sorry, thank you, I apologize. This was totally memorized. So often SBC professionals don't have a seat at the project table, and they absolutely should. They absolutely should. So if we are able to use both quantitative and qualitative data to prove our importance, to show that SBC can help projects invest smarter and show results faster and farther, then perhaps we can eliminate or ameliorate some of the issues in the veins of steps 3 and 4. My general proposal then is this, that in programming, we need a clear behavioral goal, we need to track data, relevant data against that behavioral goal, and we need to make near real-time adjustments to programming in order to improve behavioral impact. Now, I understand that this statement may require more time and discussion than I currently have available, but I would like to explain a little bit more about what I mean by this. Often, we see that programs have more of a focus on interventions than on the behavior. That is to say that often the measurement ends up focusing on the successful implementation of the intervention, which is important, and not necessarily the behavior itself. This can result in a lot of process indicators, things which are easily measurable, but not as meaningful. And so while all these things are important, if we frame this work with an overarching behavioral goal and track clear data against that behavioral goal, that should be the focus. So I'd like to take the opportunity now to give you a quick example of a project that did this successfully, and it's going to deal with voluntary male medical circumcision. So in VMMC interventions in Southern and Eastern Africa, a project had a goal of 80% coverage for males aged 15 to 49, and that goal was not being met. So the project decided to expand the types of data that it was collecting, including behavioral data on things such as the numbers of males in urban versus rural areas, the gender of the doctor or the nurse that was providing the surgery, the types of counseling that was being provided, as well as other factors. And two main insights emerged. One main insight was that men aged 25 and older did not want to queue for services with adolescent boys. So the programming response was to develop adult-only clinics or adult-only clinic hours, and that dramatically improved coverage. The other big insight was learning that many of their target younger males actually lived further away from facilities. So they developed tents and mobile clinics to bring the services closer to the clients, and they branded those with a much targeted and much younger male audience. So the use of this data is just one example of how all this data and all this tracking appropriately can provide better insights into the factors at play. Some factors are supply-related, and some are demand-related, and some are marketing-related, and others may actually vary based on age, gender, or other demographics. The point here is that the traditional monitoring for this project actually would not have unlocked these key insights and allowed them to adapt their project and have it be more successful. So we know that this type of programming exists and that we can do it well. There are examples both within and outside of global health, though I know I've just shared one with you today. And speaking specifically about what's going on at USAID, I will say that it's really exciting that we are both seeing and encouraging a renewed emphasis on measurement with a more multidisciplinary view. We have a variety of new projects and partnerships ramping up, and one common thread across all of them is a focus on data, often on this near real-time tracking for more adaptive programming and to allow us to better understand the issues and the successes of our programs. Now, I know what I've shared with you today is not news, it's not some revolutionary idea, but it is so important to what we are doing and what we are trying to do. And that's for everyone involved. If we can have a clear behavioral goal, and if we can have near real-time tracking of relevant indicators against that goal, then donors can have smarter and more strategic programming. They can deal with better coordination. And implementers can unlock more value for the same investment, hopefully move the behavioral needle more, and get a seat at that table. And of course, the ultimate goal and the reason we're all doing this is to have better impact and greater health and better health for beneficiaries. So measurement is important, but what you measure and when you measure it can make or break you. There are times when we are stuck with endpoints that are merely measurable, and we fail to capture these outcomes that are more meaningful. And while some things are difficult to measure and some are near impossible, we do need to push ourselves to do more and do it more often to improve SBC programming and to make sure SBC stays at the table. Thank you.